That thing lit radio and MTV on fire.
It's a masterpiece. That's all I gotta say. It's just a masterpiece.
But I will go to my grave trying to get people to listen to Screwed, Blued, and Tattooed. Ridley's special.
Needy. She's needy as all hell.
When I die, I want to go out like my grandpa did, like in his sleep and not screaming and crying like everybody else in the car.
Sounds like they're recording it in a garage with the door open.
I loved Done Skinny Bop when it came out. Now I find it kind of fucking embarrassing.
We gotta deal with this. What is this crap? Come on, can we just play music and cut this shit?
Chris Robinson from the Black Crowes seems like kind of a douchebag.
Hey Ridley, you'll never be like Charlie.
Then comes 1990 and fucking Thunderstruck.
Look at Guru thinks he's young now.
Yeah, I'm younger than you, so take that. Fly to the Angels, which I really like, and Spend My Life, which I think sucks balls.
This is a great song. You definitely should check it out. And if not, I don't know what you're doing with your life.
Sometimes I feel like that's me and you, and you're the head growing on my shoulder.
I think I might like his voice better than Don Dawkins.
And yesterday she took a shit in the neighbor's yard, so I had to go pick it up.
Maybe you get more views when I die on camera.
Hey, that if you're willing.
Don't get mad at me, because I don't care.
This is a great fucking year for hair metal, don't you think?
Look, I came here to do two things: chew bubblegum and talk hair metal. And it looks like I'm almost out of bubblegum.
Welcome to the Hair Metal Guru. My name is Anthony. They call me the Guru. And continuing our series of coming up with the best hair metal albums of each year, we are on to 1990. And my good buddy, Bryan from the hair band Basement is here. Welcome, Bryan.
Thanks for having me on again. It's always an honor and always a pleasure.
Hey, why don't you tell everybody where they can find your shit? Because I know you want to do that.
Definitely. Well, that's what I'm here for. My big plugs. I got my Hollywood Celebrity, the fucking movie to plug. But yeah, you can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at HB Basement. Always talking music there. And you can find my show on Stationhead, where I play the deepest of tracks, rarest of bands, and the little known songs from the biggest name artists from before, during, and after the decade of decadence. I don't play a single, so it's all the deep tracks from these bands that, if you're watching this, you definitely love. And that's my stuff that's going on.
Awesome. Yes, go download that Stationhead app and follow that show. A lot of cool shit on there. So before we get into these albums of 1990, I'd like to show you some more framed shit. This is an album flat from, and I just released. Today is it's Wednesday, the 5th of June. I just released about an hour ago the 1991 episode. And so this album made that episode. Tufts, What Comes Around Goes Around. I love that cover. So some vintage hair metal from the end of the era. And I said that 1991, that grunge was coming in, but hair metal was like not fucking yet. Grunge, not fucking yet. Well, now we are into 1990, and man, hair metal is still at the top of the charts. This is a great fucking year for hair metal, don't you think?
Yeah, and you told me you already did the 91 episode, and I was like, crap, that's a good year. There's a lot of good albums. And instead we got 90. I went, oh crap, this is a good year. There's a lot of good albums. I have almost 30 albums that could have made my list. Well, 10 of them did, but yeah, it's a fantastic year for this stuff.
Yeah, besides the 10 that I got, I have like 16 honorable mentions. There's gonna have to be a part 2, I think, for all of these years, because there's too many great albums that we haven't had a chance to talk about. So that will be something that's coming up in the future. Before we get into the albums, hey, first of all, anybody that's here watching this stuff, man, I really do appreciate it. If you haven't been to the channel before, I'd love it if you subscribe, if you comment, and like, and all that shit. I don't know if it helps out with the algorithm, but that's what all the other podcasters say. So I'm going to say it too. And you also have the option to join, become a member. You get benefits that not everybody else gets when you join. So, hey, whatever. I'm just glad that people stop by and watch this shit. Okay, with that, Bryan and I decided to come up with 10 what we think are the best hair metal albums of 1990. Without further ado, Bryan, what do you got at number 10?
All right. All personal opinions. So I know in the comments, don't get mad at me because I don't care. Number 10, not a really well-known band, but a great debut album. It's Trouble Tribe with their self-titled album. I mean, Tattoo was got me into them. So there's a video for it. I actually posted it today on X, and it's cringy because it's a bunch of good-looking girls playing air guitar and stuff. It's so bad, but the song is awesome. And Here Comes Trouble was the second single, but so many good tunes like Back to the Well, Boys Night Out, Red Light Zone, Angel with a Devil's Kiss. In the End was a pretty good ballad, and they had a great cover of Dear Prudence from the Beatles. It's such a good album. I don't know. I know it's not streaming on Apple. I don't know if it's anywhere else, but if you can find this probably on YouTube, it's such a good album. Good stuff.
It has been, I bet, shit, it's from comments. So people who comment, trust me, I read them all. And if you haven't noticed, I try to respond to them all, at least with something. So I get a lot of people that will say, hey, you should check out this album. You will like it. Now, I don't remember who it was. I wish I did so I could give them credit. But somebody was like, dude, you got to check out this Trouble Tribe album. And I'm like, shit, I know I've seen that before. So I do. I'm like, fucking A, I'll go pull up a couple songs and see what I think. And yeah, I'm brand new to Trouble Tribe, but I'm a new fan. So I got to listen to it a few more times, but I think I've listened to it 2 or 3 times. And I'm like, shit, I've been missing out. So that's a good call.
Yeah, some good stuff there. I think I've been posting on X like pictures of the old cassettes I had from back in the day. I think this was one of them. I think I posted a picture on this one. But yeah, it's not on Apple. I don't know if it's on Spotify. I have no clue. But I really like this one. Yeah, it's a pretty good album.
Yeah.
I think that, again, one of those should have been bigger bands, but
yeah. I usually listen to music on YouTube. I'm on Spotify, but anyway, whatever.
Yeah.
As long as I can listen to it. Okay. My number 10, man, and I've pumped this shit. They were in the 93 to 95 episode. They were in the 92 episode with their second album, and now I'm going to talk about their debut. And I just can't get enough of this band. It's Rhino Bucket with their self-titled album. A lot of people call them an AC/DC clone. I can understand that because, hey, George DeLevo, the vocalist, he does sound a lot like Bon Scott. And they do, I mean, their riffs are similar to something that you might hear on an AC/DC album. I do feel like they are definitely harder, a little bit more hard rock than a little less bluesy than AC/DC is. So I think they have their own spin on AC/DC style music. But whatever it is, this band should have hit it in 92 because they had a song on the Wayne's World soundtrack called Ride With Yourself. And I love that song. And that soundtrack, I think, went 2 or 3 times platinum. Unfortunately, it doesn't lead to the band, doing what I think they should have done. But this debut, I'll just give you I could give you the whole album. It's one of those. One Night Stand, Going Down Tonight, Beg for Your Love, Train Ride, Blood on the Cross, and one more, I'd Rather Go Insane. It is all killer, no filler, catchy as shit, AC/DC inspired rock. So I highly recommend it.
Yeah, it's definitely AC/DC inspired. If you listen to it, it sounds more like AC/DC around the same time than the Bon Scott years, where they had more blues and influence. Some of the songs had more swing sound to it. But yeah, that both their first 2 albums, just heavy power chords, just all kick-ass rock, And yeah, it's got that more modern spin to it because it's 1990 and hair metal's is a thing. But yeah, that is a solid album. Really good stuff.
And I've always said I'm not into musicians who are like, blah, 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 let me play a million notes. I like that 3-chord simple shit, and I like singers who sound like they've been smoking, crack and not smoking crack, snorting cocaine maybe, and drinking whiskey for like a week straight, and they sound like they got razor blades in their throat. So
yeah, they smoke a pack of cigarettes for breakfast.
Yeah,
kind of
shit.
Yeah.
So that's
Anyway, and I totally get that because you're right. It's literally if AC/DC came out in 1990, basically what it is.
Perfect.
And I always wonder if that's what hurt them, though.
Yes,
that could be the problem.
I think so. I think a lot of people were like, oh, you're just cloning. But people who could get past that and just go, hey, here's a band that's inspired by AC/DC. They fell in love with it. But you know how some people are like, oh, you sound like you sound like Poison, you sound like this. So I think you're copying. I'm done with you.
Yeah, but then again, AC/DC clones themselves every album, and it's all kick ass. So
Yeah.
gives a shit.
All right,
Mm.
we are at your number 9. What do you got?
My number 9, one of my favorite albums. They were kind of looked at as a goof band, but it's the debut by Scatterbrain. Here Comes Trouble. God, this goddamn album is great. They were known for the first single, "Don't Call Me Dude," and they had the oh shit, I forgot the name of the goddamn instrumental that plays all these rock songs. That'll come to me eventually. And that's the tip of the iceberg. It's so many great songs. That's that. I'm Was Stupid, Mr. Johnson and the Juice Crew, Goodbye Freedom, Hello Mom, and they have a cover of Cheech and Chong's song from Up in Smoke, Eric, My Eye, which kind of just says it all right there. But goddamn, what a great album! Musicianship is phenomenal. I don't know how they weren't bigger. Probably because the lyrics were just too goofy, I guess you could say. Like I'm Was Stupid is about a guy who's a complete asshole and he gets instant karma and he grows like a head on his shoulder and he has to deal with that. That's pretty much what the song's about.
Sometimes I feel like that's me and you, and you're the head growing on my shoulder.
Oh, okay. All right.
I've heard of that album and I can even envision the cover of it, but I've never listened to it and I wouldn't know shit about it.
The cover is great because it's got a kid flying a kite near power lines, ready to step into a puddle with lightning bolts coming towards the kite, and it's here comes trouble. But when you open it up, it's him standing in a pan of water, putting his finger in an outlet and just electrocuting himself, which is so ridiculous. So it's goofy humor like that, but the songs just kick ass. Like Mr. Johnson and Juice Crew, one part has this cool like bluesy riff in it. I mean, the whole album, I just love this thing. I wish I remember the name of the song because the one song is an instrumental, but Down with the Ship, that's the name of it. And they play famous rock riffs throughout the song.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like you sit and listen to that thing and go, oh, wait, I know that's from this. This is that song, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I think this is a great song. You definitely should check it out. And if not, I don't know what you're doing with your life.
All right. Okay. Well, I want to know what I'm doing with my life, so I'll check that shit out later. Okay. Very good. We are on to my number 9, and continuing the theme of sounding like AC/DC, I now actually have AC/DC coming in at number 9 with the Razor's Edge. And this was one of, I don't want to say the most important album because the most important album was probably Back in Black coming after Bon Scott died. But the mid 80s and the late 80s were not kind to AC/DC. You know, Back in Back blows up, and then For Those About to Rock sells about 4 million, but their sales steadily decline. You know, they generally still go platinum, but you know, I mean, it's no longer are they even close to being one of the biggest bands around. They're just another band. And then comes 1990 and fucking Thunderstruck comes out, and that opening guitar riff, which however gets played, that thing lit radio and MTV on fire. And shoot, I coach high school basketball. That song is all over the place. The most famous sports team in North Dakota is the North Dakota State University Bison football team. They're called the Thundering Herd.
That's even better than I thought it would be.
Their intro is Thunderstruck. And so, I mean, and there's other, Fire Your Guns. Money Talks was a big hit.
I like that one.
Mistress for Christmas kind of had, a little bit of some humor with it. Rock Your Heart Out. Are You Ready? And when AC/DC asked, are you ready for the Razor's Edge? I was like, fucking A, you're right, I'm ready. And so, I mean, it brought AC/DC back to the forefront. Shit, my senior, not my school, I went to another school's prom, and the prom theme, I shit you not, was AC/DC's Thunderstruck. So we go through the line, and then everybody's out dancing to Thunderstruck instead of some So anyway, that album was great for the band and great for music, period. So that's my number 9.
Yeah, that was almost like a resurgence for them.
Yeah.
Like if you listen to Thunderstruck now, I swear you would think that was something from 1981 or something like that. Like
Right.
it's just a staple of their live shows.
Yep.
But no, that came out 10 years after Back in Black.
Yep.
And you're right, the 80s were like, man, I mean, they had some decent songs here and there, and some albums were okay. But that one came out, and it was like, all right, AC/DC is back. We're like, holy shit, this is where what we remember these guys. And yeah, that they even think that that song wasn't in a live show from
Yeah.
the beginning of their career is just crazy. And
Right.
Money Talks is a great tune too. I
Yeah.
like that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember this thing coming out. My friend was a huge AC/DC fan, and he was like, "Holy shit, this is what I've been waiting for 10 years now." I was like, "Okay, here we go."
Yep. Yep. It
Never got to
saved
see
the
him live
band.
though.
Saved the band.
Mhm.
All right. We are on to your number 8.
My number 8, what the flip, okay, is another debut album from a band that should have been big, wasn't, but Shake Your Soul by Baton Rouge.
Oh, yeah.
Another great album that again, how did these guys weren't big? As far as I know, I think the only it was Walks Like a Woman, the only single.
I don't know if it was the only single, but I remember that coming out and actually getting a little bit of radio play, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. And I remember, yeah, that was a song that got me to buy the album. And it had the goofy, like, literal lyrics shown on screen kind of thing. But yeah, that's pretty much what the band's like. It's just all these kick-ass songs with like heavy, background vocals to it. I mean, some of the other ones like Doctor, the opening track is good. Big Trouble, Bad Times Coming Down's a good one. Baby's So Cool, and how It's About Time wasn't a big hit is beyond me. Again, Mr. Ballard over here. I don't understand. I just don't get it. I actually posted a picture of my cassette copy of this thing, and the cassette is fine, but the case got completely warped where it's all wavy.
Yeah.
Because I put it in front of a heater thinking it was far away, and it wasn't. But yeah, it's such a great album, and those guys should have been bigger. The follow-up's really good too.
Yeah. I really
Yeah,
fucked up with that band because I loved Walks Like a Woman. But then I was like, all right, that sounds like kind of a gimmick song, oh, Walks Like so I kind of bailed on the album. I think I listened to it once or twice and was like, ah. And now I shit you not, it's been in the last year because people have been talking about it on X, and I think I probably heard you talk about it, and I'm like, fuck, I'm gonna throw that thing back in. And both of those albums, the more I listen to them, I'm like, damn, there is like great songs galore. So yeah, that's a band, and that was such a catchy first single. I'm surprised it like get them a lot more. It's kind of in the cherry pie unskinny bop. I mean, super catchy. Lyrics that were gonna kind of stick in your head. In a way. So yeah.
But I think a lot of their songs had those catchy choruses with the background vocals and everything. Again, I don't understand how it just didn't catch on. It's just so weird. But yeah, it's a great album. And I think on the second one, they did a cover of was it the second album, Babylon AD's Desperate? I think they did it on that one.
So, yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, both solid album, solid band, and just never got the break.
Well, the rock gods were not smiling down on them. So
yeah, and sacrifice enough goats or some shit.
Yeah, that's right. All right, we are on to my number 8, and talked about this in the 92 episode. One of the first hair metal super groups, and it's Damn Yankees, and that self-titled album that went double platinum, and this is from excuse me, 3 guys from bands that most people would have said they've had their time. Styx was so huge in the early 80s, but by the mid 80s, they were like, fuck, oh yeah, Styx, they're kind of dinosaur band. Night Ranger, huge in the early 80s. Uncle Ted, shit, he had only been huge in the late 70s. The 80s were not smiling down on Ted. But they get together for this Damn Yankees project, and shit, the first single, Coming of Age, super catchy and definitely fits in the hair metal realm of thinking, you know, with the song. Big hit. The ballad High Enough comes out, huge hit. But there was Bad Reputation was great.
Mm-hmm.
Rock City. And then to Runaway isn't a ballad, but ultra catchy. I love when Jack Blades and Tommy Shaw, we've talked about this before, but when they harmonize, it's just fucking magic. And then there's another song that's kind of half ballad, half rock song called Come Again. You know, you can see why it went double platinum. The follow-up, Don't Tread, was great. Only
Mm-hmm.
with Gold. And they were supposed to record a follow-up. The record label kind of paid them to like, hey, you know what? You had your
You're
time.
done.
Here's some money to get out of the contract. They all go back to their other bands. But damn, if I would really be interested to see what a reunion of Damn Yankees would look like.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember seeing Coming of Age on
Yeah.
MTV and was like, shit, that's a catchy song. I like that. And I actually got the cassette. I was a senior in high school, had to have been. And I remember me and a friend, I'm like, free period. I'm gonna go to the record store and get this thing. Drove down there and he's like, he's looking at it as I'm driving. He's opening it for me. He's like, who are these guys? What is this? I don't know what the hell this is. So I popped it in, and first song off the album is Coming of Age. We're listening to it, and he's like, holy shit, this is good. Like, he had no clue what was in store for. But yeah, it's a great album. And you're right, all those guys are like, they were established. Well, not all of them, the drummer, except the drummer, were established in older bands. People thought they had their time. It came and went. And now they put this thing out, and it's kick ass. It's absolutely kick ass. I think I said this when you talked about Don't Tread. This was the first time Ted Nugent ever went to #1 after that long career. And it was the song again? Oh shit.
High Enough.
High Enough. Yeah, that just somehow, that was the one that got him in the top spot. I think Runaway, I don't know if it was, but I think Runaway should have been a single as well. That had a very commercial song
Totally.
to it, or sound.
Great harmony.
Excuse me.
That song.
Yeah. But you're right. The harmonies are fantastic in that. You got these experienced guys keeping up with the young folks and just kicking ass with the album.
Yep. Absolutely. All right. Let's move on to your number 7. As long as you're not dying on me over there.
I know. Maybe you get more views by die on camera.
Hey, that if you're willing, I mean, probably helps.
Nah, you only get one shot at it though. I can't come back and do it again.
But I would still be here.
Oh, okay. So I'm sure there's some positives too, though.
Here comes Ridley.
Right,
so everybody say hi to Ridley.
Hey, Ridley. I thought the fucking thing was Riley. Riley or Ridley? What is it?
Charlie's still at the farm, but Ridley's
Ridley. I thought it was Riley.
Ridley's special. Ridley's very special.
Needy. She's needy as all hell.
And yesterday she took a shit in the neighbor's yard, so I had to go pick it up.
What a mess this dog is. Hey, is it Riley? Ridley was the name of this thing?
Ridley.
Ridley. Hey, Ridley. You'll never be like Charlie.
You're very nice. You're very popular on YouTube. Okay.
Yeah, just say it's Charlie. Yeah. Hey, Ridley.
Nobody would know.
You don't know.
All right. You're number 7.
My number 7. All right, enough of dog talk. All right. This band, I actually listened to this album this morning for this. I don't know how it wasn't bigger, but the Wicked Sensation by Lynch Mob. Top to bottom kick-ass album. I mean, it's George Lynch just shredding and killing it like he always does. I mean, I almost think this is where the direction Dokken should have gone in. Right. And almost feel like if they stuck together, maybe, though I forgot the name, Oni Logan, I think I might like his voice better than Don Dokken's. Some people might get upset about that because he's got kind of a raspiness to it, know, smoking cigarettes for breakfast and drinking whiskey for lunch. Right. But Wicked Sensation was the lead single, but some of my favorite, River of Love is a great one. Sweet Sister Mercy is great. Dance of the Dogs, No Better Roses. I mean, this thing should have been huge, and somehow it wasn't. And it kind of reminds me now how you have Mick Mars releasing a solo album and then Motley Crue doing their own thing with that Dogs of War sack of shit. Well, you had Lynch Mob releasing an album and Don Dokken releasing their album. I think in that head-to-head competition, this album beats Up From the Ashes any day. And Up From the Ashes is a solid album, but this thing is just kick-ass top to bottom. Not a bad song on it.
for some reason, I just never got into Lynch Mob, and I don't know why. So maybe I didn't listen to it enough. You know, like my history of music is littered with albums that I gave a listen to and said, okay, I set it down. And then years later or whatever, decide to revisit it and go, wait a minute, what the fuck was I thinking?
Yeah.
So that might be the case because in fact, Don Dawkins Up from the Ashes is in my honorable mentions. So
Mhm.
I've always considered that to be an album that I liked more than Lynch Mob. But
Wow.
you heard it here now. I'm gonna revisit Lynch Mob and George Lynch. Sorry about giving you some shit. So okay.
Yeah, because I posted on X, I was listening to this at work, and someone said, I love this album, but afterwards they never really had anything. And I kind of agree with that. The second album isn't bad, but this was their best. They just released an album last year. I think it was
Yeah.
last year. Not the same. This
Yeah.
debut, I think personally, it's just a killer album. And
Yeah.
never were able to remake that on another album. Well, they kicked out Logan because he was just a mess. Like he couldn't perform on stage. He had substance issues.
Yeah.
So they're like, all right. And I forget what they get for Robert Mason
Robert
replaced.
Mason.
This isn't the same. His voice wasn't the same. But this album, I love this album. It's so great.
Robert Mason is now in Warrant, and I
Yeah.
like his voice, but it's good. I just don't know if I love it, but
Mhm.
yeah. All right. My number 7, finally I get to talk about a band that you know is in the underground hair metal circles. And you know, like we said, the heavy metal gods is we're not shining down on them. The band is Company of Wolves, and it's their self-titled debut. Now, there's a guy named Steve Conte who has played with fucking Michael Monroe. He played with who was that early 70s band that basically started glam? The New York Dolls for a
Oh yeah.
bit. Um and their singer actually was in a band called the Ravens that had a song on the Fast Times on at Ridgemont High
Mhm.
soundtrack. His name is Keith Brewer. So they get together, they put out this album, um, and it's they were not like they weren't going. I don't think for the they had kind of a hair metal sound. They definitely didn't have a hair metal look. They came from I think more the Tesla side of rock, at least as far as their look goes. But the song "Call of the Wild" was the first single.
Oh, that-
And I've said this about Bon Jovi. Songs like Wanna, Dead or Alive, and Stick to Your Guns, I call it cowboy metal. And and I love that shit. Company of Wolves, I felt like resembled cowboy metal. So check out Call of the Wild. It's got this really jangly, cool acoustic intro and then kicks in. The song's Hanging by a Thread and Jilted also just kind of give me that cowboy metal, term. If you're in the comments, let me know what you think or if I'm fucked up with that term. But then they had another rock song called Romance on the Rocks. So there's 4 rock songs that I love. Then there's 2 ballads, Everybody's Baby and The Distance. And I know this band was recording their follow-up, but like, most bands that didn't pan, if your debut didn't pan out in 1990 and you were recording the follow-up, chances are the record company was saying, we're gonna pull the plug because the signs that hair metal was going away were already happening in 1990, and then 91, obviously grunge comes in. But that Company of Wolves album, man, it's always been a band that I talk about when you talk about hair metal bands that could have and should have but didn't.
Yeah, I know of the album and Call the Wild. I know the song, and I know I have it on my phone somewhere. I'm just not placing the other songs, so I'll have to give that one another listen. But yeah, you're right about that point where if your debut doesn't get big, it's very tough in 92, 93 for the record company to follow through with your second album.
Yep.
A lot of these bands kind of suffered that too. Like 90, like when we did 92, 91, 90, and 89 had a lot of bands just coming out.
Yeah.
If you came out in 91 and sorry, 89 had a semi decent debut, you probably had something you can pump out in 91, 92. But if you have a debut in 90, 91, 92 and it wasn't selling, the record company wasn't going to waste time on that. which is a shame. There's a lot of good bands that came out in that time period.
I will say this. I just saw that the album that got shelved has been released and it's on Amazon. It's sitting in my basket. It's like $17 for the CD. So I'm sure I'll pull the trigger at some point. I'm just always leery because, you know, did the production value, did they spend the time on the songs, you know, or is it just gonna sound like shit that wasn't finished and they didn't really, you know? So anyway, but that
like there's 2 done tracks, the rest are demos and stuff. I was like, who needs that? Sounds like they're recording it in a garage with the door open.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I have to revisit this one. You got me on this one. I gotta give this one another listen.
Okay. All right. We're on to your number 6. What do you got?
Oh my God, good question. What's going on? This one, I was gonna put, this is the spot I had for Black Crowes debut, Shake Your Moneymaker.
Right.
And this band, I remember first hearing about them and the Black Crowes on Headbangers Ball, and Ricky Rackman introduced them as 2 bands that have a heavy 70s sound. One was the Black Crowes, you all know about, that was huge. Their debut exploded. I almost put their follow-up on the 92 list. But this is the London Choir Boys. Well, here in America, they're known as London Choir Boys. They were the Choir Boys overseas with A Bit of What You Fancy.
Oh, shit.
And such a good album. It sounds like the Faces put this out in 1990. A heavy 70s sound. What's his face? Spike, the lead singer, sounds like just like Rod Stewart.
Yeah.
There's a raspiness to it, which is just great. I mean, they had a big 7 O'Clock was the lead single. That was pretty big. And Hey You was the biggest song off the album. So that did pretty well. I Don't Love You Anymore was a good ballad. They released that. And There She Goes Again is a good song as well. But Take Me Home is a great closing song on that album. And Man on the Loose is just a kick-ass tune. That's my favorite song off that album. And that how they didn't make it and somehow the Black Crowes did. Because I posted, again, another album, I posted the cassette I got back in 1990. Yeah. And someone said, yeah, the Black Crowes on this, I posted on X, and someone said the Black Crowes had like a Southern 70s sound to it, but these guys sounded more like the Faces. And I'm like, yeah, that's good. I don't understand why they didn't make it big.
Yeah.
I don't understand it. And they put albums out afterwards, just still around.
Yeah.
The live album is great. They got Jason Bonham, his son playing on drums, and it just sounds kick-ass. But I love this debut album. It's so good. Just never broke through. I don't understand how.
If you haven't listened to that and you like, because I really liked the Black Crowes Shake Your Moneymaker. And exactly, I would have thought those 2 bands would have just been side by side. You know, they weren't exactly, but you know, had that old 70s look, that Faces kind of thing. And for whatever reason, the Black Crowes blow up and the London Choir Boys go to shit. But that debut album, Hey You, 7 O'Clock, I mean, damn, I mean, that is just catchy, kick-ass rock. It's not, you know, it's not hard rock, it's not heavy metal, it's just freaking straight ahead, Stonesy, Faces, Rod Stewart influenced rock, and it's phenomenal.
Yeah, and again, I don't understand how it didn't make it big. It's such a great album. And yeah, it's a shame because you're right. Yeah, these guys came out the same. Literally, I think they might have came out like a month or 2 before the Black Crowes. But yeah, Black Crowes blow up, and these guys. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I put them on the list, because we all know the Black Crowes. They already got enough love. I thought that the London Choir Boys did a little more love for putting out such a great debut.
And plus, Chris Robinson from the Black Crowes seems like kind of a douchebag. So.
A lot of lead singers are.
Yeah. I read a book by the drummer. Now I can't remember his name, but anyway, it's a really good book. And he talked about like when they were super huge, after the second album. And he's like, we're going to play concerts, and like Chris Robinson is like, we're not playing any of the hits. And you know, as a fan, I do like to hear the underground shit. Yeah. But you know, most people are at a concert hoping to hear Twice as Hard, Jealous Again, She Talks to Angels, and he's like, no, we're playing all the album tracks. And I'm like, that sounds like kind of a fucked up thing to do. So
I can get it being like, I'm sick of playing hard to handle every fucking night. I get that. But people are paying you to play that song.
Yeah.
And it is what it is. I mean, I don't know.
And your fans made you who you are, you know?
Yeah, but also, but I think the more dick move is he makes that decision for the rest of the band.
Right.
The rest of the band's like, no, we're playing it. As a bass player, I like playing that song and it gets the crowd going. We're doing it. But I've heard him and his brother constantly fighting with each other and all issues. At one point, the band was done. God, a few years ago, they're like, we're not doing any more album, and then they just put an album out last year, which is really good. Maybe it was this year.
That.
Really good album, but I mean, because he had the issue when he was touring with. They were touring with ZZ Top. I actually saw them in Buffalo, and it wasn't long after that he started trashing the sponsors.
Yeah.
And I think it was Budweiser was like, "Well, all right, fuck you. You're off the tour. We don't need this." And it's almost like a Sebastian Bach thing where it's like the rest of the bands, we got to deal with this. What is this crap? Come on, can we just play music and cut this shit?
Right. Yep. LSD, singer's disease.
Yeah. Yes. That's right. That's right.
Okay. We are on to my number 6. And man, not many bands were, I mean, there's a few, but not many were debuting in 1990 and blowing up the charts. But man, this band did. And I think a big part of the reason was that they were helped because they had just come from a band that had some publicity, the Vinnie Vincent Invasion. But Vinnie Vincent is out of his fucking mind, let's be honest. So Mark Slaughter and Dana Strum from that band leave to form Slaughter. They release Stick It To Ya in 1990. And that thing blows up. Double platinum. You know, they opened the Kiss tour, which, man, I mean, you got to give Kiss credit. They brought out a lot of fucking cool bands in the 80s. I mean, they had Bon Jovi, Faster Pussy. So when I saw them in May of 90, it was Faster Pussycat and Slaughter. And that I don't know what it's like a racetrack stadium is, but there must have been 15,000 people. And in Fargo, that's good numbers. Anyway, Stick It To Ya is full of rock songs that were ultra fucking catchy. Eye to Eye, Burning Bridges. I love that song. And it's kind of, when you hear the lyrics, you know it's about Vinnie Vincent. Up All Night, which I'll be honest is like one of my, not my favorite rock song on the album. Maybe I just heard it too much. I do like it. Mad About You. And Desperately, I don't know how the fuck Desperately was not a single. That is so catchy. Then they had a couple big ballads, Fly to the Angels, which I really like, and Spend My Life, which I think sucks balls. That's really annoying, that song. So if I do an episode about ballads that suck, and I've already talked about Love Bites and Without You from Motley, Spend My Life.
Bites. Stinks. Oh God, what a sack of shit that song is.
Yeah. So and the follow-up comes out in 92. Obviously it's 92, but it debuted at number 8, The Wildlife, and I really liked the Wildlife single, but that album was it was probably rushed, but there was a ton of filler, and that was kind of they put out a number of albums, but nothing has ever reached the promise of what Stick It To Ya did, and that's why it comes in at number 6.
I made my honorable, so damn Yankees, but yeah, that thing was huge.
Yes,
I remember getting that just because Strum and Slaughter were in Vinnie Vincent Invasion. I love All Systems Go. It's a great album.
Right.
So I got it just because of that. I still remember just counting down days, like, holy shit, it's you listen to the Vinnie Vincent album just to get your fix. But yeah, that thing, Eye to Eye is probably my favorite song off that album. That's a great one. Like you said, Burning Bridges is great. Loaded Gun, the end of the album is great. So many good songs on it. I just played Desperately on my last show. So that thing was massive. And I actually saw them, that my first concert was them with Kiss. But we had Little Caesar open up for all of them. Which would have been another band that made my honorables. What's that?
Which would have been, I would have loved to have seen Little Caesar, but I'll be honest, I'm glad I got Faster Pussycat, because Faster Pussycat was phenomenal at that show.
Yeah, at the time, I think I would have rather seen Faster Pussycat, but Little Caesar was pretty good. And I wasn't a big Kiss fan at the time, so I mainly went because of Slaughter. I'm like, this debute's awesome. Go check him out. Yeah, so yeah, that was my first concert at Nassau Coliseum on Long Island. Somehow that thing is still fucking standing. I think it would fall apart by now and cave in on itself. Right. But yeah, that album was just a massive debut. I'm gonna say this: I don't like Fly to the Angels. I just I don't really think it's that. Yeah, if it wouldn't make my top ballads list.
Yeah, no, me neither. Me neither.
But the public loved it.
I don't mind it, but I never go out and listen to it on purpose. But Spend My Life, holy fuck, I skipped that. That's horrible.
But I still think Up All Night is one of the greatest rock anthems ever. That's something you play at a show and the crowd goes nuts. I will still listen to that song. Though it's been played a million times, that is one song that I've heard it a million times, but I will still raise the volume on it. It's got that kick-ass. I think it was the first single too, but this is the party song from this album. And just to write that alone is a feat in itself. To write a whole album of songs that are just as good, impressive. Just impressive. And all those, I think what's his face? Because Dana Strum had been around for a while. Mark Slaughter was in, Vinnie Vincent. I don't know if Blas Elias was with anyone before that. I forget the guitarist name off the top of my head.
Tim Kelly,
yeah. But just all of them are just talented musicians as well. Tim Kelly, who doesn't get much credit for being such a good guitarist, he was a good goddamn guitarist.
Rest in peace.
Yeah. Oh God, the way he went is just shitty. Some asshole in a truck that decides, I'll be fine. I won't sleep for 3 days. Oh my God.
When I die, I want to go out like my grandpa did, like in his sleep and not screaming and crying like everybody else in the car. All right, let's move on. Let's go to your number.
Let's go on with that.
Your number 5.
My number 5. Here we go here. This album, another one that should have been big. Great band. It's Hurricane, Slave to the Thrill.
Oh yeah,
unbelievable album. I don't know how the previous album didn't have them blow up. How this didn't blow up is beyond me as well. Rain of Love, the opening track, is kick-ass. Next to You should have been a hit. Young Man's a good one. And how Don't Want to Dream, as the ballad, did not get released and just explode on the airwaves, is a mystery of music I don't think will ever be solved. It's such a damn good song. And Kelly Hansen just has a great voice, just an incredible voice. But that album should have been big. And now it's known as the album that has the cover that had to be changed because the fucking Lady on the Machine, all that shit. But I mean, the album just kicks ass. Such a great album.
That cover is kind of, because I know that cover.
So it's kind of, I'm not saying it's a good cover, but it's like,
I know.
What are we doing here? Like, what are you trying to do? We're a band that's trying to make it big. Maybe this album, we are a big break. Let's put something on the cover that Walmart doesn't want in their stores. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
That's another album that it's been in the last year, and people talking about it on X. By the way, at HB Basement, at Hair Metal Guru. I mean, I either get turned on to new bands or reminded about old bands so many times there.
Yeah.
So people were talking about Hurricane, and I'm like, fuck, that's the I'm On To You band. But I never had the time to listen to the Slave to the Thrill. So here I go, check it out, and I'm like, shit. And I love that. I'm so glad that I get reminded, because there's a ton of albums that I would have never gone back to. So anyway, great album. And that ballad, shit.
I remember getting that album and that song came up. I'm like, this is going to be a hit. This ballad is so catchy. It's going to be destroying the airway. And no, I don't know if they even released it as a single. I'm not sure about that. It's just someone in the comments can correct me on that in the most polite of ways. I'd be like, let's fucking convict this ballad loving pussy.
Shit. And speaking of pussy, I don't know why, but I need to get a new chair because it gets me all sweaty in my back and my ass.
They got the swamp ass.
Yes. Do you see this, right? The new white, That's a Cinderella ad for the song Gypsy Road from Kerrang magazine. I love Kerrang over in Europe would advertise for specific songs. Like in America, you would see ads for the albums. You never saw shit like that, you know.
Are singles more bigger over there than like
They must be, I don't know, because
maybe people are buying singles and stuff. I see you got the Ultraphobic up there too. Is that, and the Sleazebees, those new too?
Sleazebees is new.
Yeah, okay. All right.
But like, yeah, you would see like I have ads for like Breaking Down from Subhuman Race. You know, and they would have ads for the album, but then whenever a band released a single, it was like they got an ad over in Europe.
Yeah, you're right. Because here in the States, you'd have, you're right, an ad for the album, but they would say including the single, like in a little spot, so it wouldn't be the focus.
Yes.
That is a kick-ass tune too.
I have like 400 Kerrang magazines, so I have framed a shit ton of stuff out of there. All right, we're at my number 5, and this comes from, man, I mean, a band that often gets credited as being the hair metal band. I think they won VH1's like #1 hair metal band of all time, and I love this band. And it's the third of 3 of their first 3 albums to go, you know, at least triple platinum. It's Poison. It's Flesh and Blood. Again, I'm like you know, sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't want to talk about the known bands. Like I you know, because they already have the fame and the fortune and all that shit. Poison has all that. So there was a part of me that was like, okay, put in something more obscure. The fact of the matter is that, damn it, I loved that album when it came out. And when I look through the songs, there are still a shitload of songs that I think are legitimate. So I put it at number 5. So that, you know, there was the hits, and I'll be honest, I loved Unskinny Bop when it came out. Now I find it kind of fucking embarrassing. You know, it's another one, you know, like Cherry Pie, loved it. Now it's like it's kind of hard to listen to. But you know, 1990 was a different time. You could do that shit. But this album is a lot deeper than Open Up and Say Ah and Look What the Cat Dragged In. Valley of Lost Souls.
That's a great tune.
It's a great song. Flesh and Blood Sacrifice.
Another good one.
Ride the Wind is about Bret Michaels taking his motorcycle to the Sturgis bike rally and just, you know, all these, you know, meeting all these bikers and like this you know, this group of people that are kind of known as outlaws, but when they're together, it's all about loyalty. So, and then maybe my favorite song on the album, it should have been a single. It's called Life Loves a Tragedy. It's got this epic melodic, almost ballad like breakdown at the beginning, and then it picks up. Geez, and the lyrics are just amazing. And then, you know, Something to Believe In, and you know, most people, I'm a soldier. It's kind of like, you know, it meant, you know, part of it is Bret Michaels is a firm believer, you know, in America and supporting the troops, and part of that song goes into that. So I love the message in that song. And then there's the lovey-dovey ballad called Life Goes On. I don't think it's aged very well, but I loved it when it came out. The album went triple platinum, and it's really the last album that I gravitated to. I did not like Native Tongue. You know, Holly Weird was a shit show. Crack a Smile had a couple decent songs, but Flesh and Blood legitimately was a great album. That's why it comes in at number 5.
Yeah, it's either
you're not a big Poison fan. I know that.
I'm not a huge Poison fan, but that album, I mean, that's one of the. I've always said this about Poison. Their singles are always really good. They're deeper tracks, and they get kind of weak. But like Valley of Lost Souls, that is a great song. It's one of my favorite songs by them. Flesh and Blood, another great song.
Yep.
Didn't they release that one as a single though?
I think they did. They did.
They did.
Blood got a video.
Yeah. So that's again, it's a strong album. Right. They're on top of their game when this thing came out. Yep. They already had the 2 albums under their belt. They got the experience. They've been doing this for a while. Yep. And you could see the maturity in the writing and what they were doing. I never liked Something to Believe In. I just didn't. It's just personal taste. It's not about the content or anything like that. I always thought that Every Rose Has Its Thorn is easily their best ballad. just, the thing blew up and everything. But yeah, that's a strong album, and yeah, a lot of good stuff on it. I'm not gonna even dispute that, because this is Poison just, doing what Poison does and doing it well, and still doing it after being around for 4 years whenever this came out. So I actually saw them and Warren on this tour.
Oh, wow.
I will say this, Poison puts on an unbelievable live show. Unbelievable. I saw them, I don't know if I said on your show, but I've seen them 3 times.
Yep.
And I saw Bret Michaels solo at a golf tournament, which is kind of messed up in itself. But the whole band just, they have an energy that, again, you see this is why they got signed. You can just tell, because just the way that they're able to command a crowd.
Yep.
And yeah, I could totally see this being on the list. I get it. It's something that the band that has the popularity people know about, but it's a big album. It's a big album.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
Those people putting on there.
All right. You're number 4.
My number 4. I want to say this shit. I want to say no, another debut. I think only 2 of my I think only 2 of my songs on my list aren't debuts. God damn. But this one was a massive one. This is Firehouse's self-titled debut.
Yeah.
And R.I.P. CJ Snare, but the guy had a hell of a voice.
Yep.
Unbelievable. Bill Leverty, underrated as a guitarist. I don't know. Usually when you hear top players, unless you really know this music or deep into playing guitar, you barely hear him come up. The guy's an unbelievable guitarist. I mean, Shake and Tumble, Don't Treat Me Bad, Love of a Lifetime, and All She Wrote were singles. I'm not a fan of Love of the Lifetime. Not one of my favorite ballads, but everything else on this album is just great. Rock on the Radio, which I don't know how that wasn't a single. Ought to Be a Law, Home is Where the Heart Is, Overnight Sensation. Oh, just such a great debut. And yeah, there's a reason why this thing went double platinum. It's a fantastic album. Just unbelievable work by these guys. Especially in 90, being an unknown band. Unbelievably able to do this.
There's some really heavy guitar riffs on there.
Yes.
I think they got labeled kind of pop metal because of Love of a Lifetime. And then the follow-up had When I Look Into Your Eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third album actually had a hit in 95 called I Lived My Life for You. And yeah, I think I might have liked Love of a Lifetime when it first came out. Oh, now if I never hear that song again, I'll be just fine. But man, I remember hearing Don't Treat Me Bad was the first single.
Mm-hmm.
And when it gets into that guitar riff, and you're like, holy shit. So yeah, I remember thinking I got to go pick that album up.
Yeah.
And, man, that was a big, and didn't Hold Your Fire come out in 92?
Yes.
And that still sold fairly well for being a 92 album. Yeah. So, and I've seen them live so many times, and they were one of the coolest bands in that they always had this thing. Every live show, they would come out and sign shit and meet the fans. Every live show. And I remember an interview, they were like, the fans put us where we are. Every show, unless it's impossible to do, we are gonna come out, and they always did. So
that's cool.
And for that,
because I remember going back when you're talking about Slaughter. Slaughter was kind of like that too. And I remember, I forgot where I saw the interview or whatever. They would actually like release stuff to their fan club when they're working on the Wild Side and be like, "Hey, this is what we're working on. Check it out." Because they were like, we were big fans of like bands like Zeppelin. And we were like, how awesome would it be for them to send us a copy of what they're working on? So they're kind of like that same way. And that's definitely cool to do for your fans. Yeah, definitely. I remember being in college when Don't Treat Me Bad came out. And I remember I was in the room with this girl I liked, calling the college radio station. Yeah, okay, yeah, all right, yeah. You're jealous. You're like, wait, girl, what?
Well, I guess.
What were you in the room for? I don't get. We don't understand. But and calling the college radio station to play that song. Like, I want to hear this song. And I actually spent a year as a DJ on that same station. Would play the song for myself. Like, why not? I'm on the air. I'll play what I want to hear, kind of like what I do now. But yeah, that whole album is just top to bottom. Except again, Love of a Lifetime, I'll skip. But that, what's his face? Leverty has a signature sound, and those heavy riffs with a kind of a pop almost like a pop groove to it.
Yep.
Yeah, really set them have their own sound. Basically, Firehouse has their own sound that no one else really was. I wouldn't say no one else was really doing, but it is more distinct than what everyone else was doing.
Yep. So how did that night go?
I got to hear the song.
All right, better than nothing.
Thumbs up in my book.
All right, we are on my number 4 now. Here's an unknown band that, and man, I didn't know about them until probably 2 or 3 years ago. A friend of mine was was like, hey, I mean, I liked Bon Jovi a lot on Slippery When Wet in New Jersey. They kind of lost me after that, but for a period I was a huge Bon Jovi fan. And this friend of mine was like, dude, if you like Bon Jovi, like you need to check out this band Blue Tears.
Mm.
Blue Tears. I'm like, fuck, I know everything about hair metal and I never heard of this Blue Tears. Well, obviously, even though I'm the hair metal guru, there are a lot of bands, that fucking, that passed me by. So so I check out this Blue Tears album. And the first song is called Rockin' with the Radio. And it is ultra pop metal. But I mean that in a good way. So if do not go into it expecting heavy. It is pop metal. It is Bon Jovi-esque, Slippery When Wet, shit like that. So if you know that going in and you're okay with it, then you are going to find some shit that you like. Rockin' with the Radio, Crush,
That's a good
Innocent
one.
Kiss, ultra sugary, sweet, but cool guitar riffs, and the singer, who has also passed away by now. I don't know exactly when. His name is Greg Fulkerson. And now that I said that, when Blue Tears didn't hit, they did another band called Attraction 65 that was kick-ass and released some more modern rock that was great. Anyway, but if it's a Bon Jovi type band, they're gonna have great ballads. Halfway to Heaven could have been a hit. True Romance could have been a hit. So anyway, this is really one of the underground bands of hair metal. And listening to it, you're like, shit, if they had gotten a chance, somebody who was big with Bon Jovi said, hey, here's something similar, but it just never happened.
Yeah, I didn't know about these guys until, oh God, a few years ago. I didn't even know about them in 1990.
No.
And there used to be, it wasn't just on an online show. I think it was broadcast in some places too. A show called Hair. I think it was Hair Metal Mansion.
Okay.
And the guy used to
familiar.
host it was Andrew the Axeman. All right. And I used to listen to that show all the time, and he played the song Crush. And I was like, holy shit, that's a great song.
Yeah.
And that's what made me get the album. And you're right. Yeah, it's poppy, but it's a good, solid album.
Yep.
And didn't you have these guys on like either a show with bands that should have been big or
yeah, and
something like that? Yeah.
I think I did that, and I think I had them on a ballad episode too, because
Okay.
they have a couple albums. This was the only one that was more, kind of national. They had Rockin' with the Radio was a single, but
yeah,
I mean, phenomenal band. Check out all their shits online. So
yeah, like I said, I didn't hear about these guys till maybe 8 years ago, 9 years ago or so. And yeah, it is a good album.
back when
Good
you were
out
like
there.
54?
What's up?
Back when you were like 54? How old are you?
Okay. All right. Look at Guru thinks he's young now.
Yeah, I'm younger than you, so take that.
Well, I'm better looking, so here we are.
Hey, and shit, before we started this, he had his hat off. He has hair. Like shit, I thought Ryan was bald too. Ryan has hair. Fucking.
I have a 5 head though. Look at that thing.
Oh shit, that's a full head of hair, man.
There you go. Yeah, I'm jealous.
Good for you. Way to brag about it. All right, let's move on to your number 3.
My number 3, finally a band that was established before. It's not a debut. It's the probably easily Queensryche biggest album, Empire. Great band. I've talked about them. Was it Closing Songs? I brought up Mindcrime. This was the follow-up. I mean, Empire, Best I Can, Jet City Woman, and of course, Silent City with the singles. That thing just blew up.
Yep.
It blew up. But it is it's a ballad, but it's the type of ballad Queensryche would do.
Yep.
Thin Line, probably my favorite song off the album. Another Rainy Night Without You is great. Hand on Heart, One and Only. Anybody Listening? I mean, great album. The thing went 3 times platinum. Saw them live on this tour. They played a lot from this album, and they did all Mindcrime in its entirety. Unbelievable live band. I mean, these guys just, it's amazing how it took this long to finally explode onto the scene. But yeah, it's a great album. Just a great album.
Wasn't The Best That I Can, is that on that album?
Yeah, it's the lead single. It was not the lead single, the first song. It was the first song.
I love that song. And I'm not a huge Queensryche fan. Like I promised, and I'm going to go listen to Operation Mindcrime. I loved Silent Lucidity because I'm a pussy.
Good tune.
Ballads, but so I know like the radio shit, but I haven't been one to sit down and listen to their albums through and through, and I should. But yeah, I was in college when that came out, and Silent Lucidity was all over the fucking place. Like, wow.
So. Yeah, because I think I got into, that's right when I got into Queensryche. I got this album before it really blew up. I remember hearing Silent Lucidity going, this is different. This isn't like all the other ballads out there. And then when all of a sudden it just exploded, I was like, holy shit. Wow. All right. People like this kind of stuff. Because of that, they kind of got some comparisons to Pink Floyd.
Yeah.
But I think every album they're compared to someone else because they kind of change things up every now and then with their sound on these different albums.
Right.
But yeah, this is just a great album.
Yep.
Great album. It was big. It was big. How they weren't bigger before is beyond me. But yeah, this thing just exploded. Fantastic stuff.
All right. We are on to my number 3. And I think a lot of people might be surprised that I didn't put this album at number 1. Everybody knows that I'm a huge Warrant fan. I swing from Janie Lane's nuts, probably more than I should.
By his teeth.
Okay, great. But Cherry Pie and part of, it's probably the reason it isn't at number 1. I mean, 1990 was a great fucking year, and there are 2 bands that didn't make it big that should have. So, but anyway, Cherry Pie legitimately is full of great rock songs. And in writing down the songs that I didn't even mention the title track. We've talked about that, yes, it is a super catchy rock song. There is a super fucking cool, heavy ass guitar riff in the song Cherry Pie. So I'm not afraid to say that I loved Cherry Pie back in the day. But Uncle Tom's Cabin is, to me, that song sets them apart from what most bands could do and showed the depth and the writing ability that Janie Lane had. And it was so much, but then there's, yes, it's full of the tongue-in-cheek sexual stuff. Love in Stereo sure feels good to me. But then again, you get deeper stuff. Song and Dance Man, and a song that I think should have been a single, Mr. Rainmaker.
Yep.
Holy shit. The lyrics are great, ultra catchy. And I Saw a Red tattooed on my arm, and not, the song has a lot of meaning to me, but that is one of the best ballads, I think, of this genre, and so super deep. Blind Faith was a single that I think it made the top 40. But I'm like, that song should have gotten into the top 10 somehow. Phenomenal song. So, I'm always torn about Cherry Pie because I feel like that's, when you think about Janie Lane's downfall, that song and that album tend to get a lot of the credit for it. But you can't deny it was a huge album. He was an amazing songwriter, and that's why it comes in at number 3.
Yeah, and I think he matured his writing abilities on this one too. Yeah, I mean, except for Cherry Pie and Sure Feels Good to Me, the rest that I skipped those. The rest of the album is great.
Sure,
such good tunes. I mean, like you said, Mr. Rainmaker is a phenomenal song that should have been a single. Yeah. Love in Stereo. Yeah, we get what it's about, but still, it's a catchy tune. What's the other? You're the Only Hell Your Mama Ever Raised. That's a great tune.
Bed of Roses is kind of a cool.
Bed of Roses is really good. I mean, the cover of Train's really good. It's just so much good songs on that one, and it's a shame where it's known for Cherry Pie. You know, and it's like you bring up how much you like that. I go, oh, that's the song with the cherry pie song. Okay, yeah, that's the most spot, whatever. But that's not what that album's about.
Yeah, I think
it's way deeper than that.
People talk about that album like Cherry Pie was the only hit on it. That thing was full of fucking hits.
Yeah,
Tom's Cabin was a huge hit. I Saw Red was a huge hit. Blind Faith was a medium hit. You know, so I mean, there's popularity,
but people
a lot more.
Yeah, and people talk about that album like Cherry Pie, yeah, the big hit, but they make it seem like every song was another Cherry Pie or it's along the same lines. And no, it's not. This album is way deeper than their debut.
Absolutely.
And and again, most people look at it and go, "Oh, Cherry Pie, it's Cherry Pie's, album or whatever." Because obviously, Cherry Pie is ever on the stupid album, and cherries are on everything, and we get that. But yeah, the rest of that album is just it top to bottom so good, except for the Cherry Pie, and yeah, sure feels good to me. It was like, okay, it's all right, but the rest of that album is so strong.
Yep,
it's a strong album.
Absolutely. All right, let's go on to your number 2.
My number 2, I've talked about this one before. I talked about their follow-up in the last show we did from '92. I think I talked about this one as for the opening track show, and it was on the honorable mentions for the closing song. One of my favorite bands from the genre, and it's Love Hate with their debut, Blackout in the Red Room. I mean, I love this band, and I love this album. I like the sound of Jizzy Pro's voice. That's a big part of it. I think they were ahead of their time because they had their basses kind of had more of a funky sound to it. Like say it's pure funk, but it gave them a sound that really wasn't like anyone else in 1990. I mean, you had the title track was the first single, She's an Angel. Why do you think they call it Dope? Were also released as singles. But songs like Tumbleweed, One More Round, Straight Jacket, great songs. I can't say enough about this band. Though the last time we did '92, you were talking about Roxy Blue, and I said how their first single, Rob the Cradle, was like, wait, what are you talking about that for? And someone said in the comments, you just went on about how great Love Hate is, but then you started talking about how the song Rob the Cradle is wrong, blah, blah, blah. But I think for Love Hate, that's what they were about. Not like, not being with teenage girls, but just that crappy dark side of the LA scene. Where it was like, yeah, this is some shady stuff going on, and it ain't all pretty.
The song that you're talking about is Rock Queen.
Yes.
Where he says, Rock Queen 13, buxom blonde. Yeah. And
Bad Dream, Let Me Touch Your Cookies. And it's like,
I mean, that's a different time. And so FYI, we, are not, and those are songs that could not be written now, and for good reason. But
I also think it's done in a way. See, the way I look at the difference, I look at the two, where it seemed like a lot of them were almost celebrating it, and I always looked at Love Hate, it's kind of singing that, going, "Hey, we're pieces of shit." Right. When it's not exactly, it's not all fun and roses. You're gonna become a superstar, glamorous model life kind of thing. It's like, there's a lot of pieces of garbage that are shooting up and will take advantage of you, and it's really bad here. It's not exactly sunny California. It's got a dark underside. I always felt Love Hate was the band that really like, hey, this is what it's kind of like. I always said, Poison were taking girls backstage. These were going runaway teens shooting up behind a dumpster in the parking lot. That's pretty much what they're about. Sleaze metal at its finest. I love this album. It's a great album.
All killer, no filler.
Yes, definitely. It definitely would make that list if we don't know all killer, no filler list. What was the one guy said in I think it was one of your comments, all bangers and no clangers? Was that
Hey, whoever said that, good comment. All bangers, no clangers.
Definitely. Slow clap for that one.
Yep. All right. We are on to my number 2. And guys, I think I really struggled with which one to put at number 1, because I think everyone's going to be like, what? This one's at number 2? But damn, I worship this album. I've been waiting to talk about 1990 to specifically get to this album, so I almost consider it a tie for number 1. The band that comes in at number 2 is Sleaze Bees with Screwed Blued and Tattooed. There's the album flat up there. I worship this album. I think I found it I was in college and I think it was 1992. This album came out in 90, but in 92 some girl made a mixtape and was like, "Hey, here's some rock." And I remember King of the Hill, the ballad "If I Say" was on it, and then she put Screwed, Blued, and Tattooed on it. And I'm like, where the fuck? Because I was in a small town, like we didn't have a rock radio station. This is a town of like 7,000 people where I was in college. We did have MTV, but MTV wasn't playing a shit ton of sleazebees. So I go out and buy the cassette after I hear the song, and holy shit. So they'd actually had a previous album called Look Like Hell, but Screwed, Blued, and Tattooed was their American debut. I talked about rock in the Western world on
Great
the
tune.
opening track. I've talked the title track.
Great
Both
tune.
of those songs are fucking caffeine injected into your veins and get you just jacked up. Track number 2 is House is on Fire. Holy shit. Damned if we do, damned if we don't.
That's a good one.
Oh, when the brains go to the balls. Okay, you can guess what that song's about. Then this was a single, Heroes Die Young. A lot of cool lyrics in there. Not really a ballad, kind of a mid-tempo song. Stranger Than Paradise was a single, a very minor hit, very cool song. Almost a ballad. Then there is a ballad called This Time, which I don't think is the best song on the album. But again, an album that had so many songs that I thought could have been on radio, and it sold like 250,000 copies, and like it did enough to where they got another album in 92 called fucking Power Tool, and that's a solid album too. But I will go to my grave trying to get people to listen to Screwed, Blued, and Tattooed.
It's a great album. I don't know what else to say about it. We've talked about it before. Such a great album. Yeah, and I said this last time we talked about it, where I picked up the cassette at a mall because I'm an old fuck. That's why I said that first, and putting that in the car, playing it in the car, and it starts off with
This is
rock in the Western world.
Yeah.
And it's just like, holy crap, this is unbelievable. And yeah, it just hits you in the face. It's just kick ass.
Yeah.
And again, another band, I no idea why they didn't explode, how they didn't get bigger, but especially Strangers in Paradise. That should have been a bigger hit, I think.
Yeah, totally.
Easily. It had a catchy commercial sound to it, especially when it kicks in.
Yes.
But yeah, and the title track is just great. And yeah, it's a great album. Again, if you haven't checked this out, folks, definitely check it out.
Yep.
It's a fantastic album.
Absolutely. And I've talked about him to death. So, all right, let's go on to your number 1.
All right, my number 1, fantastic band, killer guitarist. It's Extreme 2, Porno Graffiti by Extreme. It's a masterpiece. So I gotta say, it's just a masterpiece. Every song is great. Some were played too much. I'll get to that in a minute. I mean, Nuno Betancourt is a guitar genius. The guy's still shredding like he was his first day, when they first came out in '89. Unbelievable player. Gary Sharon is a great voice. He's a great frontman. I mean, the band sound has a very heavy, you could tell a Van Halen influence, almost the same setup, shredding guitarist, flamboyant vocalist, solid rhythm section, and great background vocals. But the obviously More Than Words was the big hit, and Wholehearted was another big hit. They're good songs. I can't listen to them anymore, but they're decent songs. But the rest of the album, what was the first single, Decadent Dance? A great song. Yes. The other single was Get the Funk Out, great song. But then you have what's the other one? Song for Love was the other single. That's a pretty good ballad. But Money and God We Trust is great. It's a Monster's a good heavy tune. Susie Wants Her All Day. What God that's about? He-Man Woman Hater. I mean, this whole album is just great. Unbelievable songs. This is the kind of album that bands would kill to be able to have the talent to write. And double platinum? Just a great album.
I did Did you talk about More Than Words?
Yeah, it's that was the biggest song.
Yeah. No, well, so yeah, so I really like that album More Than Words, and I got so sick of it, and
Yeah.
I mean that's it's probably a test. It's probably it went to fucking number one. I'm sure it's a great ballad, but damn. So yeah, Nuno Bettencourt. I mean, he's up there with Vito Bratta, Eddie Van Halen. He is right up there with those guys, and Gary Sharon has a phenomenal voice.
Hmm.
I've never been the biggest Extreme fan. Most of the songs that you listed, I'm like, shit, yeah, Decadence Dance, fucking like He-Man Woman Hater. But I've always just been like, hey, yeah, I like Extreme, but I've never been one to love them. And that's probably again another band that I need to revisit because I bet I haven't pulled out that album in years.
I
So
think it's been a while for me too. Yeah,
yeah,
but that's one of those albums I'll put on, just let it play, and be like, oh fuck yeah.
yeah, yeah.
It's such a good album. But you're right. More Than Words got way overplayed, and then they released. I think Wholehearted was the next single.
Yep.
For some reason, people thought that was the whole album. Like the rest of the album's gonna be all this acoustic stuff. And no, it's in your face,
Yeah.
killer stuff. And I know people that bought it thinking, wait, what is this? This isn't acoustic. It's like, yeah, it's not the whole album, you dummies.
Okay. The countdown has begun. We are on my number one. And again, this could have been so many different albums, and it really could have been Sleazebees, could have been Warrant. But for some reason, I worship this band. It's the Electric Angels. They actually started as a Sunset Strip band called Candy. And their guitar player is a guy named Ryan Roxy, who actually is right now Alice Cooper's guitarist. Their bass player and main songwriter, and now I can't remember his fucking name. I'll put it in the shit. I'll put it in the or I'll put it in the video. He is now a big time music manager. He manages like Courtney Love and all these other big acts. And so anyway, um, Candy put out an album that is really pop rock, pop metal in the early 80s called Whatever Happened to Fun. The album doesn't do that well. They basically reformed themselves as Electric Angels and put out this self-titled debut. And I shit you not, this thing is all killer, no filler. The band is kind of it's almost like they patterned their look a little after Hanoi Rocks in a way, but it is pop metal in the best sense of the term. I was going through and I'm like, okay, I just want to write down the songs that I think are phenomenal. And I'm like, what's, I mean, it's every song. It's every song. I'll give you a couple. Rattlesnake Kisses was the first and only single. It got a video. Jeez, that song should have blown up. This is a band, so most people know all the shit that is in my house is all like framed magazine ads and things like that. I have never seen an ad for this album. So whoever was their manager or the record company completely fucked them because there's very few articles on the band, never seen an ad. I look on eBay all the time because I would spend, so if anybody has an ad for this, I would spend big money because I want stuff from my favorite bands. It took me forever to find that Sleazebees album flat. Anyway, I know I'm getting off track. I just can't say enough about this band. So Head Above Water, Cars Crash, The Drinking Song, Whiplash, and then there's one ballad on it called True Love and Other Fairy Tales. I put that in a video about underrated ballads that should have been big. The band did record the follow-up, but because this debut did not do very well, it got shelved. It got put out years later. It's definitely an unfinished product, not nearly as good as this one. Some of the guys in the band went on to form a band called The Loveless that released an album in '95 that is very solid. again, very pop rock. It wasn't going to do well in 95. But I just, this album, Sleazebees, Wild Sides, Under the Influence, McQueen Street, and DAD are 5 albums that, again, I will, half the reason I started this channel was to let people know about these bands that just hit me right here and never made it big. So go find Electric Angels. You can find their CD on eBay, and it's on YouTube. But however you can, I just, and I realize I'm rambling. I love this album so much. I spent $55 on this album on eBay because you can never find cool Electric Angel shit. Okay, I'm done.
I thought that I'm looking right now. I could have sworn it was on Apple. Yeah, right. I just saw. Yeah, yep. And yeah, this it's such a good album. I don't understand how Rattlesnake Kisses wasn't a big hit. It's such a catchy commercial tune, and it's just weird. There's nothing on these guys in magazines or anything. You don't know what label they were on?
I mean, I don't right now. I could go. I'm probably
not
fucking MCA.
That's what I was going to say.
I don't know.
Promoted. No one knows about them. They didn't get dick from the record company. It's got to be MCA. It's got to be them once again. But I don't understand how it is a good album. And I didn't really know. I knew of these guys, I want to say, back in 90, but it wasn't until more recently I didn't get the album. It's on Apple, and started listening to it and just being like, I knew the Rattlesnake Kisses song, that I knew, but the rest, again, how aren't these guys big? Unbelievable. And like you said, record company debut doesn't do too well. Work on a second album, man. Pack it up, guys. We're not going to release this. That always gets you when a band makes the second album, it's done, and then the record company decides to shelf it. Like what?
I'm sure that. I mean, there must be, well, not promotion for this band, but like I'm sure the money it costs to promote an album is huge.
Oh yeah.
So they go, fuck it, it's recorded, but we're not shelving. We're not going to do the video. We're not going to, promote it in all the magazines, and we're going to save our money and just bail on it. But yeah, it's disappointing shit.
But also in 90, the debut came out. Whenever the second album was going, it costs money just to make copies of it and get it out there.
Totally.
All that stuff costs money. I'm sure the business looked at it like the record company looked at it like, this is how much we'd spend, this is how much we would make. Don't bother with it. We're not gonna bother.
I know Ryan Roxy has a pretty decent platform. He does a podcast. So if somebody is watching this and knows somebody from Electric Angels, I would love to do, and I have yet to do interviews on this thing, but that is something that I hope to start doing. So, especially these underground bands. I'm not expecting somebody from Poison to want to do an interview with me, but man, McQueen,
Bobby Dahl.
Yeah, right. Electric Angels, shit, love, hate, it would be awesome to. So anyway, if you are watching this and you know somebody related to some of those bands, spread the word. So with that, that's my number one. And man, thank you for being on and sharing your top 10 from 1990.
I'm shocked with your number one. I didn't think that would. I'm not surprised it's on the list. I'm surprised it's number one.
Yeah.
I mean, you went deep, no pun intended.
Yeah. And it could have been Warrant, and I think probably the reason I put Warrant at number 3 is just because they've already got the accolades. Everybody knows.
Yeah.
Them. And those other two, like I said, tied for number 1 because I'm sure people thought Sleazebees would have been the number 1. But
that's shocking too. But also part of it is, at least for me, the bigger albums you've heard a lot. Back when you first got them, you were listening to them a lot. The singles were big, so you heard those a lot. And now I'm almost at a point where it's like there's bands that weren't as big. I like their albums more because I haven't had them driven in my ears so many goddamn times. Whether it's by record companies, MTV, radio, or myself.
Yes.
But I mean, it's not a knock on those albums. It's like, wait, there's other stuff there I think I would like more now.
You're absolutely
older than back then. Yeah.
You're like if I listen to Warrant these days, I would I always go back to Dog Eat Dog and Ultraphobic. I rarely go to DRFSR and Cherry Pie because you know the shit, they were huge. I played the shit out of them. Radio and MTV played the shit out of them. So I'm like, you know, you get to a point where, you know, even though I know they're great albums, I don't need to hear it again.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I
So,
totally
so
agree.
I revisit the lesser knowns from those bands, and then these albums that were never on radio and on MTV, and the only way I will ever hear them is if I play them on purpose.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Or if you listen to my show on Stationhead, that's
Or
what
if you listen and follow him at HB Basement, download Stationhead, Hairband Basement, listen to his show. Hey, follow me at Hair Metal Guru. Hey, now that we're to the end, well, hopefully you made it this long. What did we miss? You know, there's got to be, and we are not going to do honorable mentions. We
Okay.
because there are so many. I'm sure at some point there will be a part 2, but still tell us what albums we missed. Tell us, you know, maybe did we fuck up on any of the ones that we put in? And you know,
No, we
hey,
didn't.
would love it. We didn't. Would love it if you comment, like, subscribe, join, all that shit. And even if you don't, the fact that you watched a little bit is really all that's important to me. Until the next episode comes out, my name is Anthony. They call me the Guru. Take care.